Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is stage 10 of the 25 Tour de France, brought to you by Baker Tilly. Big shout out to Baker Tilly for sponsoring every episode of the Butterfly Effect during the 25 Tour de France. Now let's get into today's stage, because at 163 kilometers, I'll call it 105 miles in length, and we're talking about like 8 category climbs, but really there's like a million out there. They're all over the place. This stage is littered with climbs, and it's going to be littered with action. It's going to be the highlight stage, I think, in the first 10 days of racing here at the Tour de France. And you know the first 9 stages were spectacular, so stage 10, if it's that good, you know I can't do it justice up here on the Butterfly Effect, so I'm going to try my best to entertain you guys here. So grab your popcorn, sit on your Chesterfield, strap in your seatbelt, because today's going to be an exciting stage. When we start getting into kilometer zero, bam, the action starts right away. It's my man Victor Campenaerts throwing in some attacks. It gets brought back right away, and then we see Julian Alaphilippe going up the road. Now, let's go back and look at that profile one more time, because the first category climb comes like 4 or 5 kilometers into the stage. Julian Alaphilippe's tacking 2 kilometers before the first climb. And when he gets on the climb, you see the Director Sportif radio comes on where he says, "Lulu, be careful, the climb's coming up soon." You never want to attack 2-3 kilometers before the first climb on a stage at the Tour de France, because the first one's going to be nasty. So Julian Alaphilippe's already blowing his legs up when he hits that climb, but the Peloton doesn't care about Julian Alaphilippe, so they're throwing in attacks back there by Quinn Simmons, the American rider, in the Stars and Stripes jersey. He's throwing in attacks, and we start seeing some splits of about 20 riders going up the road. Everything's blowing up back there for the sprinters. They're going to be in the gruppetto from the first climb. It's going to be a rough day back there for the sprinters. Luckily, they're smart enough to stay together back there as it's blowing up, and we see Johnny Milan with his Lidl Trek teammates wrapped around him, but Quinn Simmons is in the front group. It starts to form up there, and we start seeing the group get bigger and bigger, and then over the top of the first category climb that Lenny Martinez grabs some points on. Once they're coming down the backside, we see Simon Yates jump across with 4 or 5 other riders to get us to about 30 riders up there. The last rider to go across is going to be Movistar, Pablo Castrillo, and I'll call it 30 plus or minus riders in this front group. Now we go back and we have to look at UAE team members, because they were marvelous. They are going to be marvelous on this stage 10 of the Tour de France, the first mountain stage. And I bring it up because if I take you into the 22 Tour de France, every time there was attack, no matter who was going up the road in a yellow jersey, Tadej, Pogačar, and UAE team members were panicking. They were panicking at every stage of the 22 Tour de France when a Visma rider was attacking. Right now, they got 30 riders going up the road, and it's probably more than that. And 2 riders are Visma Lease bike. My man Camp's up there. And we see that, of course, Simon Yates made it up there from Visma Lease bike. But guys, he's way down on the general classification. But someone in this group is not. And that someone's name is EF Education's Ben Healey. He already won stage 6. Now he's in this front group, and the front group's being let a long leash from UAE team members, but that leash isn't being taken advantage of, this front group, because Ben Healey's in here, but he needs 3 minutes and 55 seconds to put himself in the yellow race leader's yellow jersey of the Tour de France. And right now, Ben Healey and EF Education don't know what to do with this opportunity. So we see splits in the Peloton. I'll call it the breakaway of 30 riders, but you could call it the Peloton, as EF Education keep making mistake after mistake and letting splits go up the road. And they're not even happening because of force. They're just happening natural selection, because the break is so big. People aren't smart enough to just hold the wheel and gain as much time as you possibly can when it's a free ride. But EF Education are doing some work on the front. Jake Olula have 3 riders. EF Education have 4. We're talking about Nielsen Palace, Alex Bodine, Sweeney's up there, and of course Ben Healey, who's a threat on the general classification at 3 minutes and 55. So with the chemistry not being so perfect right now, when we start going up into the second category of climb, we get to the top, and of course we see right there at the top, well, that's Lenny Martinez grabbing maximum KOM points. We go back and look at the Peloton when we were going up over that first climb. It was Sivakov that was having some big issues back there, and he was getting dropped along with Geraint Thomas. He found his way back on, and he's been riding a bit at the front of the Peloton for not for very long, though, because when they hit the second climb on today's stage, Sivakov goes back to the car, and he's got to call it a day. Clearly, he's not feeling good. Guys, there's been crashes and possibly some sickness throughout the Tour de France. I don't know what's causing it, but Sivakov's getting dropped right now. So that means Niels Paulette is the rider we're seeing on the front of the Peloton for UAE team members. As up front, when they start coming into the third category climb here on stage 10, we see the attack from Jake Olula, Ben O'Connor. as Ben O'Connor's attacking up the road. Ben, you're a knucklehead. You got two teammates. You have Mario Schmidt and Luke Plapp in this group of 30. You could have them on the front drilling it right now, but instead you're attacking. Okay, this is going to reduce the size of the group a little bit as we see Ben Healey up in this front group and Lenny Martinez, and I'll call it about 10 riders up here with another 10 chasing back there. But when they go over the top of the KOM, again, it's Lenny Martinez grabbing points. As we drop down the backside, we see those 9 guys catch the 10 or 11. We'll call it 20 guys, give or take. It's changing all over the place. I told you I can't do this stage justice. But as the group's bigger again, we come back into the front, and then we see EF Education's trying to ride the front some more. But when we come into about 85 kilometers to go, Harry Sweeney is solo off the front of this group. Guys, he's not even trying to be solo. That's why when he looks back, he gets all upset and throws his arm all up in the air. Now, at this point in time, EF Education are at fault here. When the group's this size, when it's 20 plus, especially when it was 30, but now even when it's 20, some guys don't want to hold the wheel. This was happening through the feed zone, so he pulled away. But the rider at fault has got to be Ben Healey. You're the highest on the general classification. Sweeney up front, he's trying to drill it right now and get yourself into the race leader's yellow jersey, but you're not smart enough to stay on your teammate's wheel, because if you stay there, everyone else will stay on your wheel, and if they don't, who cares, because Sweeney's driving it. And Alex Bodine should be up there too. All 3 EF Education riders should be up there, and Jake Olula should be up there too, but they're messing around. So we go up a little bit further into 66 kilometers to go, and now all of a sudden we see why they shouldn't have been messing around, because Ben Healey's in the race leader's virtual yellow jersey here with 85 kilometers to go in the stage. That means that EF Education got to get focused. They finally start getting focused a little bit more with some more importance, as we see Sweeney up there drilling at 100%. We go up a little bit further once we start getting in the 46 kilometers to go. Quinn Simmons is throwing an attack. Now, I left out a ton of attacks, but I'm going to put Quinn Simmons' attack in here for sure, because it was the same point in time and distance when we go back to that stage 6 where Ben Healey took off. And I remember in the interview there from Quinn Simmons where he said he knew he needed to go early. So now Quinn Simmons is putting that theory to test right here, but it's getting brought back right away. Ben Healey throws in another attack too, and then that gets brought back. And when we start going into the 6th climb with a 5-minute lead on the Peloton, that's still being led by Niels Paulette back there, EF Education is drilling it with Alex Bodine on the front. Now, Alex Bodine's doing a fantastic job, but once we get near the top of this 6th climb, we see that it's Victor Campenaerts, my man, throwing in attack. He's throwing an attack with about 800, 600 meters to go, and he's driving it, 100% on the front. This guy is drilling it with all he's got, and then at 200 meters to go, he blows. Ben Healey takes over the front, and he goes over the top of the KOM, and there's a gap back there to my man Victor Campenaerts. Luckily, he's got another rider that's been gapped off back there with him, so my man Victor Campenaerts going to bridge back up on the descent. We got about 15 riders in this front group as it's been blowing up from ridiculous attacks. It should basically have been all together and just teammates riding, 2 teams riding together, Jake Olula and EF Education riding together like they're one team. But instead, they've been all knuckleheads up here, both those teams especially, and I'll throw Julian Alaphilippe in there for that first attack of the day. So we got at least 3 different options there for knuckleheads, and you take your pick which one you like the most. But at the moment, once we come back down with about 15 riders on the Peloton, we come into about 26 kilometers to go. Now, this isn't even a rated category climb right here, but it has been lumpy, bumpy, and a hilly course throughout this stage 10. So we see Quinn Simmons at the front in the Stars and Stripes jersey. He is throwing down on the pedals. Putting huge effort into it. We go back and look at Ben Healey, EF Education. He's drilling it. Now this group starts falling apart proper as Ben Healey's throwing everything into it. He's going to close up to Quinn Simmons, and we get 6 guys in the front group. Those 6 guys, Quinn Simmons, Ben Healey, Simon Yates is up there from Vismalisa Bike, our Ensman's there, Ben O'Connor's there, and Michael Storer from Two Door Cycling. With 6 guys in the front group, and with Ben Healey in the race leader's virtual jersey with about a 1 minute and 45-second gap on Tadej Pogačar back there in the Peloton, Ben Healey starts going to work on the front now. He realizes that he can have the race leader's yellow jersey. Now, personally, if you're asking me, I'd take the race leader's yellow jersey over a stage win any day of the week, and even on Sunday, if you're asking me if I prefer yellow or if I prefer a stage win. Now, after I get my first yellow jersey, After that, I'd take stage win after stage win after stage win over the race leader's yellow jersey because I'd already have my yellow jersey hanging up in the doorway when you walked into my house. So I don't need more. But for my first one, if I'm Ben Healey, when I'm watching him finally getting on the front, drilling it right now, and he's got enough time, about 1:45 on Tadej Pogačar, I'm doing this exact scenario right now. He's drilling it 100%. We go back and start looking at the Peloton at that same moment when Quinn Simmons was drilling it on the climb that's not actually a rated climb here on stage 10. We start seeing some action in the Peloton because Vismalisa bike's on the front. They start drilling it. Then we start seeing Sepp Kuss throwing in some accelerations. As he's throwing in accelerations, we look back there. We see Arceus Samsic pulling on the front. I don't know what they're doing. I know they're third on the general classification with Kevin Vauquelins, but you do not want to be driving on the front when you got Tadej Pogačar back there that still has to do some defending, even though you got Vismalisa bike up the road. Now they got Vismalisa bike and Oscar only there, so that's probably exactly why Arceus Samsic's drilling it, but you don't want to drill it unless your legs feel like Tadej Pogačar. They're going to pay the price. When Jorgensen's throwing in attacks, he gets up there with Sepp Kuss, but we look behind, UAE team members are drilling it back there. Narvaez was on the front. He blew a little bit. Then we see Adam Yates driving it on the front. Now, this was the big question mark right here. Could UAE team members defend the race leader's yellow jersey without Almeida, who crashed earlier here at the Tour de France? This was the big question mark. How would UAE team members ride this? Well, they've ran it perfect, and now we see that Adam Yates has to pick up where Almeida dropped off. Narvaez did a great job. Adam Yates is drilling it. They're starting to bring everything back together. And when we start looking at these GC favorites, though, we start seeing some riders suffering with the next attack of Jorgensen when he starts going up the road. We look right away. We see it's Jorgensen. We see Tadej Pogačar, Jonas Vingegaard, and Remco Evenepoel. When we start looking back, we see that the teams are starting to have to close from back there, and we see that Primoz Roglic is back there with Lipovic trying to get back up to this front group. They'll do it, but Kevin Vauquelins is suffering right now at this moment. As everything comes back together, UAE team members start riding some tempo on the front of the Peloton, but they're not going to have to stay there too long because when we come into the next climb, we'll see Jorgensen's riding the front there. As Jorgensen's setting some tempo, he's trying to soften the legs up so that Jonas Vingegaard can do some damage. Remember, Jonas Vingegaard's got teammates up the road. Victor Campenaerts, my man, is somewhere dropped up the road, but that means he's somewhere in between, so there's a satellite rider there. And Simon Yates is up the road with that group of 6 rider that's now going to become 5 because Quinn Simmons is going to get dropped on the 7th climb. Now, as Quinn Simmons getting dropped, is turning into 5 guys. Ben Healey still drilling it. When we go back and look at the GC favorites back there with Sepp Kuss riding the front for Jorgensen and for Jonas Vingegaard back there, we see this group is getting strung out. I'll call it about 25, 27 riders in this group of GC favorites. Sepp Kuss is on the front till Jorgensen throws an attack. Once Jorgensen throws an attack, Kevin Vauquelins is hurting. He starts dropping in and open up the gap, and he's got Indrik Mas with him. We look up at the front with the attack of Jorgensen. Tadej Pogačar's all over it. Jonas Vingegaard's locked onto his wheel. Remco Evenepoel's in this front group. Primoz Roglic and Lipovic is in this front group. But Kevin Vauquelins and Mas back there along with Carlos Rodriguez are suffering. But Mas has a teammate. Mühlberger is back there. So we're going to see some help from Mühlberger eventually when they go over the top. As we go back up front, we're coming into about 5 kilometers to go. I'll call it just a little bit under when we start seeing that it's Simon Yates throwing an attack at about 3.6. We didn't get to see the attack happen proper, but he's coming through the village. And we're coming up to the final climb, the 8th climb here on stage 10 with Simon Yates lead. The cameras go back and find the Peloton because remember, they're about 5 minutes behind. As the Peloton's catching with Vismalisa bike on the front, they're catching my man Victor Campenaerts. So you know Camp's going to go into aerodynamic position and start drilling it all the way into the climb. Once we go back up to the front of the breakaway riders at 6 riders, we see Simon Yates is entering the climb proper with 3.3 kilometers to go. Behind him, Ben Healey's on the front. He's got a little bit of gap behind him, and we see that's Michael Storer, Ben O'Connor, our Ensman's back there as they're closing up the gap there to Ben Healey, and then out of the right side there we see an attack. It's Ben O'Connor going up the road. It's going to take him a couple hundred meters. He's going to bridge up to Simon Yates to put 2 riders in the front. Now these two riders start working kind of well together as we see Simon Yates flip out his radio and zip up his jersey. They're doing some pulls, and then our Ensman's coming across the gap. As our Ensman gets up there, he's going to be up there just for a moment when we see Simon Yates throw in a vicious acceleration. With the attack of Simon Yates going up the road, our Ensman's going to throw in the next attack on Ben O'Connor, who's dropping out. But our Ensman's holding a gap of about 3 to 4 seconds there on Simon Yates. We're getting into about 1.5 kilometers to go, and that gap's still about the same. As we go into the 1K banner, we see Simon Yates is still holding about a 4-second gap on our Ensman. We go back down to the start of the climb now, because now the Peloton's flying into the climb. As Visma Bike, we're on the front. We're going to look just behind them and see Movistar Moberger there's drilling it. He's drilling it back there, and he's trying to bring Moss up to this front group, but they're a few seconds off. And we see Kevin Vauquelin, third on the general classification, is back there still struggling to get back up to this front group of GC favorites. But remember, up the road is Ben Healey. Ben Healey, who caught Ben O'Connor now and has dropped Ben O'Connor, is trying to get to the finish line as fast as he can because he's still the virtual race leader's yellow jersey. We go up into 400 meters to go. We see up front, of course, it's still Simon Yates holding that 4-second gap. He's pushing hard on the pedals, but he looks pretty good condition. We look back at our Ensman that's throwing in his last acceleration, but it's not enough to close up on Simon Yates. As he rounds the right bend there, he'll look back over his shoulder. Then he's going to sit up and cross the line and celebrate Stage 10, first mountain stage of the 25 Tour de France victory here for Simon Yates and Visma Bike. We look at second, it's going to be our Ensman, and then third, very important, back here is going to be Ben Healey crossing the line, 31 seconds. Now as Ben Healey crosses the line, we got to go back down and find the GC favorites because they're at about a minute 25, minute and 45 seconds back there as we see Tadej Pogačar sitting in a fine position in the race leader's yellow jersey. But is he going to give up yellow? As Remco Evenepoel throws in attack, Tadej Pogačar will be on the front of the peloton when we find it. The pictures come back to him, and he's controlling the peloton, looking backwards and forward. As he's looking backwards and forward, he's going to throw in the next acceleration. It's going to be an explosive acceleration, and only Jonas Vingegaard can follow him from Visma Bike. These two riders are immediately gapping the GC favorites behind him. Remco Evenepoel's back there. Primoz Roglic is back there. Lipovic is back there. But guys, it's Oscar Only that's on the front doing damage control. As Tadej Pogačar's jumping out of the saddle, throwing a huge acceleration, trying to drop Visma Bike's Jonas Vingegaard. He can't get rid of him, so Tadej Pogačar shuts the gas down a little bit. They're catching up to the back wheel of Lenny Martinez, the current KOM jersey wearer, after he took 5 mountaintop summit finishes here on today's stage 10. He'll be in the jersey here at the end of the stage, but Lenny Martinez is struggling big time as we see Tadej Pogačar and Jonas Vingegaard drop him. Lenny Martinez struggles and comes back on. I want to back up the film all the way to when he got dropped out of this break and show you how much suffering he was doing as there was bloody nose going everywhere and his arm was covered in blood with his left arm from wiping his nose. Well, right now he's going deep for the 100th time here on today's stage 10. He comes right back up to the back wheel of Jonas Vingegaard, passes on the right side there and starts pulling Tadej Pogačar and Jonas Vingegaard. Tadej Pogačar is like, sure, I'll take a free ride to the line. I'm not worried about the race leader's yellow jersey. As we look up front, we see Ben Healey. He starts to celebrate because he knows the time right now is going to give him enough to put himself into the race leader's yellow jersey. Lenny Martinez is still pulling with just a few meters to go in today's stage 10 on the front. Tadej Pogačar never attacks. Jonas Vingegaard never attacks him, and Lenny Martinez will cross the line for a top 10 here with Tadej Pogačar, Jonas Vingegaard on his wheel. And just behind them, a few seconds, is going to be the rest of the GC favorites that were able to close up as Jonas Vingegaard and Tadej Pogačar backed off the gas and followed Lenny Martinez into the stage. Now, when it's all said and done, Ben Healey's got himself a race leader's yellow jersey here at the Tour de France, having what I would not call was a spectacular, tactically correct ride, but Ben Healey, you did go deep. You did come around in your mind tactically, do the right decision. Finally, with 25 kilometers to go, to know you can get yourself the race leader's yellow jersey guaranteed. I would have done the same tactic for sure, but I'd have put my team on the front immediately in today's stage, and hopefully Ben O'Connor's Jaco Lula would have did the same thing, which we know they don't. So Ben O'Connor ended up finished 4th on the stage. So when we go back into tomorrow's stage, remember guys, it's a rest day. So enjoy the day off here at the Tour de France, but like and subscribe because for sure I'm going to bring you guys another video here on Beyond the Coverage for the 25 Tour de France first rest day. I'll see you guys for tomorrow's edition real soon.